Could be now 50 cents an hour, but worth more. But the point is that if the government said, well, listen, we've got to do this thing, we're in debt, we've got to save the country, and this is how we're going to do it. Your your dollar an hour is going to be worth 2.5 cents, okay, tomorrow. What do you think would have happened? Do you think the people would have tolerated that? I mean, could you imagine that if it affected everybody all at once, what would happen? You see, that'd be a lot better scenario. Okay, that we could take the bull by the horn and it's all of us together, all the people together, all at once. All of a sudden, we're flat broke. We're wondering, well, how is this going to work? And we'd realize, well, we need a dramatic decrease in our cost of living. So instead of it being about $8,000 to buy a house, which it was about 55 years ago, anywhere in the country you could get a house for under $10,000, certainly. Even the beautiful coastal areas of California. So your house would maybe go to what? What is 1/40th? Because 2.5 cents is what 1/50th, is it? Of yeah, I guess it's 1/50th, right? If I'm thinking about let's see, no, it'd be 1/40th, right? So a nickel would be 1/20th of a dollar. So 2.5 cents would be 1/40th. So so you'd have to, in order just to not go under, okay, just stay even Steven, then that means your cost of living would have to be reduced to that point. So where if a house cost $10,000 back then and you could afford it on a dollar an hour, then that house would have to go to $2,500, right, to be commensurate with that new 2.5 cent worth of your money. But it would have been better, a whole hell of a lot better, if that had happened than what they've done. They've been very stealthful in what they've done to us over these 55 years. You understand? It happened incrementally, slowly, just like the analogy of the frogs in the pot of water. Okay, and here we are, my friends, and we're in a whole hell of a lot of trouble. And you know, I tell you what, I'm not sure what it's going to take. All I know is I don't believe there's a human being that can fix things. I believe it's literally going to be the finger of God that's going to have to intervene and going to straighten the minds and hearts of people out. Because as long as people love money more than they love human beings, we've got a big problem on our hands here. And I don't know exactly where it's going to end. But our values have to get straight. I know that much. This can't go on forever. That's the good news. But what it's going to take to turn it around is kind of frightening. I think it's going to be a traumatic event. Okay, it's going to have to be something that really affects people in a visceral way and traumatizes them. We need a reset. I mean, if Trump pulled the JFK and decided to get rid of the Fed, that would be a big starting point. Okay, but there's so much that could be done to sabotage any success that he would have, and the point being is that what he's trying to do is bring in prosperity, not for some but for everybody, because all these people that are prescribed to socialism now, and their complaint is crony capitalism, they don't realize it's not true capitalism, but their complaint is justified. This ever-growing wealth imbalance, the ever-growing poverty, the ever-growing social welfare industrial complex, the crime, the healthy level of crime that's induced by financial desperation, the dubious warfare machine, the debt industrial complex, all these financial services out there. I mean, we could take this 40-hour work week and turn it into a 4-hour work week in no time at all. But are we going to? That's the. So what it comes down to is each one of us making our own personal decision about which God we're going to serve, which one is going to take priority in our lives? Okay, is it going to be the God of this world, which operates through money and the things that money will buy you, like power and control? Or is the God of creation, our owner? What are our values going to be? Are we going to value material things above eternal things? We all have to decide this for ourselves. Nobody else can decide these things for us. And it has everything to do with salvation, where we're going from here, what we're going to be found worthy and deserving of inheriting and receiving, what kind of a world we're going to deserve to enter into from here. Because I can understand a lot of people that say, hey, live and let die, man, because this whole world's a crap hole. There's injustice everywhere. The system is rife with injustice. It's evil up one side and down the other, and to the nth degree. And I get it. And I could understand why you wouldn't want to live forever in a world like that. And I wouldn't want to either. Okay? That's why it's so important for us to fight the good fight on whatever basis that is put on our heart to fight it. Okay? And first of all, we need to be empowered, though, from on high with the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, the pure truth. And when we are, then we are going to be able to fight effectively. And we are going to be able to speak truth to power and to everybody else who is in darkness. They're confused. They're ignorant. They have been indoctrinated. They have been malinformed. They have been programmed and conditioned and inculcated into believing in this system that somehow it's got to make sense. It's just got it. There's just no way that this whole world is just a fairy tale. But indeed it is. I mean, when you just see this, the power that the money has over our hearts and our minds and our spirits and our souls, and every waking moment of our lives, it plays a role. How we're being so roundly manipulated by this stupid, evil entity, okay? And no other creature has any use for the stuff. And even if they could understand it completely, which how many humans understand it? I mean, you hear the way I could barely understand, wrap my mind around it. The power, it's like, how could people fall for this? But yet we do. We all value money. We all love money. We all love to do the things that money affords us the ability to do. Take your girl out for a date. Take a vacation. We get it. God gets it. Okay, we need to confess it. This is the first step to overcoming this monumental obstacle to our happiness, to our freedom, to our security, is money. It is just a plague upon the earth. And until we get it, and, you know, I just wonder what it's going to take. I don't hear nearly enough people talking the way I do and denouncing money and just pointing out what an evil influencer it is over the hearts and minds and souls of men. I mean, our attention and affection has to go one place, and that's to the rightful owner of the universe and everything contained therein. And it's been going to the wrong place for far too long, my friends. In order, I've learned to turn to the only trustworthy one there is out there to give you the right values. And that is our owner. That is God Almighty, the Creator. First chapter of the Scriptures defines this Almighty Creator God as male and female. This is how God chooses to be, male and female. Very important to understand that, so you understand the right perception, the right perspective to have on the whole male-female pattern, paradigm in this realm, this human realm. How imperative it is, how important it is to God in this procreation thing and this commandment to go forth and be fruitful and multiply. It's critical. And then to understand that what is God's greatest value, and to understand that that must be our greatest value. And it's all laid out and simple. It's as clear as light of day. It is you and I. It is the souls of men. It is human beings that he's after. And that has to be our highest value is each other. And when you have a firm grasp on your values, knowing that it is your fellow human being, including those that you consider perhaps your enemy, your nemesis, evil men, it's a big deal. It's a very, very important issue, having your values straight and having them in line with God's values, to be on the same page, to see eye to eye with your Maker, to have a meeting of the minds about this issue. The greatest values there are us, you and I. We are a precious treasure to God. Unlike what the world will tell you, that you're just another warm body and the best thing you can do is just to crawl under a bridge and die and, do the earth a favor, save the earth, right? Get rid of your carbon footprint altogether. Don't just reduce it the way guys like Al Gore want you to do. Even though he's got a big fat carbon footprint, right? He's a big fat hypocrite, right? Guys like that, he's just using him as an archetype. I'm not picking on you, Al Gore, but, you're definitely in the limelight on this issue. The depopulation thing, Bill Gates is very open about this. They believe it. They believe the earth has to be depopulated, and they don't want to start with their family and kids. And Bill Gates not teaching his kid, well, you need a really low carbon footprint, and you need to just be really poor. That's why we're imposing austerity and go under a bridge and die. This is to save the earth. You see, these people are hypocrites, and that's ugly in the sight of God. It's written in the New Testament. Jesus writes over and over, these are the men that God finds most detestable in his sight, that they live by a double standard. They one set of rules for you and your family, and one set of rules for them and their family. So it's very ugly and unbecoming in the sight of God, and we don't want to be like that. So you want to be the opposite. You have to be what God wants you to be. You have to believe in things like equality, that God at least loves us all equally and wants the best for us. So we're trying to adopt those values of being idealistic. Jesus said, be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. So we've got to learn to tame the tongue, as impossible as it seems. Okay, like James writes in chapter 3, the book of James, taming the tongue. I mean, what man could tame the tongue? It's a restless evil, full of deadly poison. Hell, a man that can tame the tongue is perfect for all intents and purposes. I mean, it's a big deal. It's not what goes in our mouths that defiles us, it's what comes out. And how do the things that come out of our mouths originate? They originate in our hearts, in our minds, those things that we harbor, those things that we cultivate, those things that we allow to fester in our soul, in our spirit. And then they come out our mouth. From our heart and our mind, our spirit and our soul, and they come out our mouth. And if there's impurities, they're going to reveal themselves if we're an impure person. And so we all, of course, we're all tainted and adulterated with the fallen state, this organic state that none of us can get away from. It's just that we are, in fact, knowing of good and evil. And so we know when we're doing something that we're not supposed to be doing. We're keenly aware of it because of this. See, we weren't supposed to know this. So we endure much suffering because of this organic sin, but it affects us across the board. We're all subject to this. So we do defile ourselves in many ways with our tongue, and it starts again with our thoughts and our heart and mind, those things we're harboring and cultivating, and those things that we're not. Conversely, the things that we should be harboring and cultivating in our heart and soul, spirit, and mind, right values, we're not. And so these things reveal themselves too, the lack of the right values. So, remembering when it comes to direction in taking instruction and counsel from God, it's all very simple and laid out. It's stuff that a child can understand. Because little children were attracted to Jesus and they wanted to come and sit on his lap and listen to him. And then the disciples, this isn't kids' play. This is serious stuff. This is the great teacher, you know, the master, Jesus, the Messiah, the Christ. So little children, get away, shoo. They tried to tell the children. Jesus said, no, don't hinder the little children. Let them come to me. In fact, unless you be like little children, in that sense, innocent, because we all know children can learn to be bratty at a pretty early age. They, you know, tap into that good, evil, Jekyll and Hyde thing, you know, right? And you know, that's what parents need to step in and let them know that, hey, you're adopting some unbecoming traits, and I want you to stop it. Okay, you got to see that it's not going to be acceptable that I raise a bratty child.